Do soulmates exist?
Conceptually, souls emerge out of a source in groups or monads, so you can have several soulmates. Okay, there's this confusion between soulmates and what you call as a twin flame or a twin soul, like one magical person. That's a different concept altogether. On earth, if at all you run into somebody who you feel, oh, I have this, I've kind of seen you before, I have this attraction, I have this focus, love at first sight types.
A connect.
In the focus is the hocus pocus, because it only indicates that there is an unfinished agenda of the past, which is now going to finish. So if somebody looks at you and says, I sense I know you from a different time, you must catch everything you have and run. Because happy stories will not seek continuations. It is only incomplete and unhappy stories that seek completion.
My God.
And the energy from where you start a process is always what it will give you at the end. Which means if the story was incomplete before, it's going to be incomplete now again. So the drama will simply repeat. So be super careful about this concept of looking for people who know you, because it's digging your grave.
Right. That's one perspective, didn't think about. When we were talking about, we were on that part where you cross over and you go into a past life. What is the process?
What is the process?
Say, for example, a patient has come to you and,
Sure. So essentially, we live most of our lives through our conscious awareness, which is in our conscious mind. That's about 10% of our total mind capacity. 90% of our mind is the subconscious one, and that's the mind that handles your body functions, your heartbeat, your peristaltic rate, your blood pressure, etc., etc., etc. And that's also the massive library of your existence. So essentially, to tap into that state, I have to get you into an altered state of awareness. So I bring you into a trance state, which is like meditation, where your body goes to sleep, but your mind is awake. So for example, when you meditate, if you go into a deep meditative space, you would have realized that your eyeballs roll up and you can't open your eyes, but you're awake. You're not sleeping. So this altered state is a state that's between complete sleep and being completely awake. It's a trance state in the middle. It naturally happens to everybody when we are about to wake up and we are about to go to sleep. It's that indeterminate state. That is the state that we create in a clinical setup, where we put the body to sleep, but you are very alert in the mind. And from there is how we pull out the data from the subconscious mind, which is where your past lives and all those things.
One would come to you as a new person on the first session. Would it be so easy to slip into the past? Or
we never ever do that. At least I personally don't teach my students to do that. We don't use the first session to go into a past life. We normally use that session to acquaint people with what the trance state is like. So when they're getting into a hypnotic trance, how does it feel? Because they're awake, but they're not awake. It's that 50-50 state.
Yeah.
And it's a very deeply relaxing state, because 15 minutes of that is like 1 hour of sleep, which is why you see when people start to meditate, the requirement of sleep goes down.
Right.
Just to put it into perspective, hypnosis and meditation are absolutely identical in the sense that they both use the same swimming pool of the subconscious mind. The difference is, when you meditate, you're jumping into the pool from the side of the pool. When you go in for hypnosis, you're climbing up the diving board. Now, if you climb up the diving board and jump into the pool, the net result will be you will go much deeper. Absolutely. That's the difference.
How would you relate a past life or reincarnation or near-death experiences of sensing energies with a mentally disturbed mind? Say, for example, someone is schizophrenic or...
What is the difference between an extremely evolved sage and a schizophrenic? Let's look at that in that context. Let's say there's a sage who's meditating on Shiva, just as an example. Okay. The sage might get an apparition of Shiva, but he's aware that only he is seeing Shiva, nobody else is. That awareness is there. For a schizophrenic, that awareness is lost.
Right.
Okay. So for people who are into deep spiritual experiences but continue to hold on to the rational modicum in which they are operating are spiritually elevated people. The moment that rational modicum is lost is when you are in a mentally disturbed state, because the logic is gone now.
Right. So, therefore, when you do a past life regression session, a person may be schizophrenic, a person may be like me, maybe an author who can cook up stories. I know it, you explained some of it, but then how would you distinguish between someone who's just making up stories and someone who is really for your own interest, for your own
Fair
curiosity?
enough.
How do you
So
know he's really in his past life?
Firstly, with schizophrenics, we have a very strong checklist of, like, ideally not working unless you're really seasoned in the field. It's a no-no. At least for new graduates, it's something we don't advise, because we need people to take responsibility for their thoughts, and schizophrenics can't do that. Coming to point number 2, which is about making up the story. Like I told you, we get people into an altered state of consciousness, which means you are in a state where you cannot open your eyes, and yet you're awake. Now, in that state, even if you give me a complete cock and bull story, but it's a cock and bull story that's affecting your behavior. That's all I'm interested in. Let's go back to where I started the talk from.
Right.
That people come because they can't handle their behavior. So I will find the reason for that, even if you're making it up. Now, the other point of making up also is there are so many stories to make up. Why will you make up a pathetic story?
Yeah. Have you ever come across any story, any past life session where you really believed what was happening?
I always believe what is happening.
Oh.
I always believe what is happening. And the amount of evidence we have, because people go into past lives, they come out with names, they come out with dates of death, they come out with verifiable facts. So, in fact, I've had one particular student from Kolkata, he's a chartered accountant, who went and got back his own death certificate of the previous life from his mother, who's still alive, of that life.
Oh my
So,
God.
like that, I've got degrees and degrees of evidence, like no shortage of it.
But
So, with what he came out,
please go ahead. Please.
Yeah, he figured out his, where he was staying in that past life, and he went and found his mother, his biological mother, who's still alive, of that life, because he died as a kid, and he came back with his death certificate.
Oh my God! I mean, that's
yeah.
So, any
yes,
any instances you would like to talk about which really shook you, which really caused you to get the goosebumps?
Oh no, of course there are quite a few, many in fact, but each one of them is viewed from different perspectives. Yeah. So, to be very honest, and my biggest teachers in this line have been my students and my clients. Because as they go through these sessions, and what they reveal is an enormous learning curve for me personally as well.
Right.
So over these 17, 18 years that I've been doing this, the amount of gyan that has come just from the clients themselves, because they actually don't know where they're going. But when they land up going there, and when they come out with things, you get some really amazing stuff. Like, maybe I'll share one with you, which is very weird. There are quite a few, but this one can be shared. So I was doing a past life session in Ahmedabad. It was a class. I teach the subject basically. My bread and butter business is teaching the science.
Okay.
So I had a student who was a Gujarati girl, and I was doing a demonstration of past life for her. And we came to the death scene. And then after that, this girl knows Gujarati, she knows English, she knows Hindi, she knows a bit of Marathi, and that's about it. And then after the death scene, she started to talk in French. Now she does not know French at all. She has never studied it. She has no idea. And she spoke for quite a while. Now, here's the funny part. I don't know French either. Now, as luck would have it, I have one student in that class of 22 who has come from Auroville. Have you heard of Auroville? It's a commune near Pondicherry.
Yeah, Pondicherry.
It's an international. So there's this one student who has come from Auroville who knows French. So she's pretty much writing the whole thing down. And after the session ends, and that student of mine translates it, it's all messages only for me. Okay? And it just so happens that in this lifetime, as a child, I have met the mother of Pondicherry personally, and she was a French woman. So all those messages were straight from my spirit guides to me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, to do with what work I was doing and what I should be focusing on.
Oh, how amazing.
So you can get some amazing stuff in these areas, which can really touch you.
And it's very inexplainable, some of this, because nobody else can experience what you have.
How can you have a Gujarati girl who has no clue of French and speaking pretty flawless French?
Amazing. What would you tell people who have lost a loved one? This is for people out there. Because the grief never goes, the pain never goes. We can give them, based on religion, they can say, okay, they've become a star or they've gone to a next life. But at the end of the day, nothing can lessen the pain. So what would you say to them?
So, Seema, when somebody passes away, the fact that they are going into a better space is not being debated, which means the pain and the grief is because it's what we are missing. It has nothing to do with the person who passed away. You get it? So now that the person has passed away, I am feeling empty. I am feeling a loss. I am feeling no purpose to life. I am feeling grief. So the key part here is to understand that death as a process has nothing to do with the person who actually died. They have gone into a lovely space. That means we are left to deal with our emptiness. Now the question you have to get into is, where have you lost so much of yourself that you gave away so much of power of happiness to somebody else? See, this is one of the most basic rules of life. If you give the key to your happiness to other people, you are going to be doomed to be unhappy. For the simple reason, then, it's the other person's whim and fancy that will determine whether you're going to be happy. Common sense. Which means at no junction should the key to your happiness be given away so fully that if the person disappears, then you are left empty.
Correct.
So if the focus remains on healthy relationships, then there is a certain amount of grief which is natural. You should feel that, but that goes off. If the grief lasts beyond the mandatory time frame, that means you have used the relationship to fill an emptiness in your life. Then my suggestion would be, find out where is that part of yours that's gone. Where have you left that emptiness in your space? Fill that up. Otherwise, the next loop will be the same.
Right.
You will get attached to something. It will fill your emptiness. Once again, when it goes, you will get another bamboo.
My God. Yeah, but that is so true, that the other person has gone into a new life. They're happy there. Who knows how many people are crying for us in our, from the past births. Yeah, And
in fact, the more you really weep, the more difficult you make it for the person to cross.
Why is that?
But that's, because you're creating attachment. No. See, technically, if you even understand a little bit about the rituals that are done in the classical Indian context, the whole objective of the 13-day ritual is to remove the emotional attachments from the different parts of the ethereal body. And which is why on the 13th day, you celebrate with food. It's a celebration. It's not a mourning. Because the 13th day bhoj that you do is because ideally, according to the Garud Puran, by now, you have removed the ego state of the soul so completely that it is celebrating with the soul family up there. So you have a grand time here because this guy played his role perfectly. Oscar award, movie's done. He's now signing up for another movie.
Right. Yeah, that's true actually.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Would you like to talk about other practices that you have related to?
Well, I am a clinical hypnotherapist, and I do transpersonal regression therapy, which is perhaps a deeper, or deeper is not the right word, but a quicker version, which uses body memory to go back into the past. But that's all I studied and that's all I've practiced. Now, there are many modalities in the world. Okay. There's Reiki, there's Theta healing, there's access bars, there's pranic healing, there is yoga, magnetotherapy. What I've understood is that every healing modality on earth exists because it serves a certain frequency of consciousness. So, for example, there are some people who will only feel satisfied when they have an idli for breakfast. And there are other people who will feel satisfied if they have a cereal for breakfast. And there's somebody else who would want an omelette, or there's somebody else who probably doesn't want to have breakfast at all. So every single healing modality serves a certain frequency of consciousness.
Correct.
The work that I do is ideally for people who believe in the concept of Aham Brahmasmi, which means I am my own Brahma, and which means they're willing to take responsibility for who they are and find out their own cause in the perpetration of the problem.
Right.
That's from where I come.
So anybody watching this would want to get in touch with you. They just have to go to your website.
Well, they just go to my website, www.eka.co.in. It's a big institution. We have quite a few people teaching, training. It's global.
Anything you'd like to tell the people when they watch this?
Maybe I'd like to leave them with this thought that Earth is a school. It's a drama school. And we enroll in this school when we are looking to discover, experience, and master the process of creation through emotions. At the end of the day, evolution is all about answering who am I, and I am God. That's not being debated. So in that context, why have I come on the Earth school? So you join Earth only when you want to master creating through emotions. So every reality that you are creating is being done through what you are feeling. So be very aware of what you are thinking and what you are feeling, because that's exactly what you will create outside of you. So what is happening to you right now is the byproduct of what you have thought and felt before. So if you take responsibility for your thinking and feeling now, you'll write a much better script when you come back to the school again. So if you have this much of awareness, I think it would be awesome.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Yuvraj Kapadia. Thank you for talking to me. And
pleasure, Seema. Good luck.
I leave you with this quote by Rumi Jalaluddin. I died as mineral and became plant. I died as a plant and rose as an animal. I died as animal and was human. Why should I fear? When was I less by dying? Subscribe to our channel, come on board and share your experiences. Email us at takeontheuniverse@gmail.com.